Alright, so we're going to practice some more of our factoring. Factoring a trinomial, remember we're working on ax squared plus bx plus c, where our a value equals 1. If you've noticed, I keep pointing out that our a value is equal to 1. We're going to work on, in our next lesson, factoring trinomials where the a value does not equal 1. And that's a little bit trickier factoring, so we want to make sure that we have this down before we move on to the more challenging factoring. Alright, so what we've been doing when we're factoring these trinomials is we focus on our c value, factors of -4 that add up to our b value, which is a -1. So factors of 4 are 1 and 4 and 2 and 2, but because it's multiplying to a -4, I know one of the numbers has to be negative. So one number in here is negative, one number in this pair is negative. How do you know which one? See what they're adding up to. If they add up to a negative number, that means the bigger number is negative. So I'm just making the bigger number negative. Alright, so now let's see which ones add up to a -1. 1 plus -4 is equal to -3, so that one did not work. 2 plus -2 is equal to 0, so that didn't work. We are not coming up with any factor pairs that work, and that's possible sometimes. That means that you can't factor it. So it's impossible. And then what do you write for your answer? We write that it's prime. There are no factors of -4 that add up to -1, so this is a prime trinomial. It cannot be factored. Alright, so what looks different about this last example? We have x squared minus 14xy plus 13y squared. Okay, so here's what I think the easiest thing to do, and you'll recognize this type of a problem. I'm going to kind of ignore the y's for a minute. I'm going to say, well, what if it's just an x squared minus a 14x plus a 13? That looks like everything we've been factoring. So we would start with our c value, factors of 13 that add up to -14. Well, my only factors are 1 and 13. 1 and 13 add up to 14, but we need a -14. So remember, if you're multiplying to a positive number, both factors can be positive and both factors can be negative. -1 plus -13 is a -14. So that's the factor pair that works out. So we are going to have x minus 1 and x minus 13, but we kind of ignored some y's that we need to bring back in. Remember, this is really a 13y squared. And how do you get this last term? That actually comes from multiplying the last terms of your binomial times a binomial, like for foiling. So really all that we do is the y goes in with those numbers. And we could check this. If we were to FOIL this out, would it work? X times x is x squared. X times -13y is a -13xy. -1y times x is a -1xy. -1y times a -13y is a positive 13y squared. We would combine the like terms in the middle and we get x squared minus 14xy plus 13y squared. It checks, it fits it matches our starting trinomials, so we know that we're good. So I just wrote a lot of stuff down. This one is actually our answer right here. And we just FOILed out to do a check. This was a check of our answer right here. But if you have your x squared and your x, and then you have a y and a y squared, if it looks like this, you can just ignore that second variable for a moment, find the numbers you need, and then make sure that those numbers go in that same spot.